Tillman was there, and I'd always say, hey, Tilly, can you do the thing? Oh, yeah, cool. And so every single time I'd get him on, and he'd be going on the show, and they'd introduce him. Hey, join us right now from ASU Football is Pat Tillman. He'd be like, hold on, guys, I can't hear shit. And he'd look at me like he just wanted to say shit, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of a game, third inning, about to call. All of a sudden, boom, we're off the air. I see like a 4-year-old with my phone line walking. He had unplugged the whole thing, and I had to go like plug it back in. He called me. He's like, hey, I know what your next job is going to be. I was like, oh, yeah? What's that? And he goes, yeah, we're going to open a wealth management firm together. And I literally hung up on him. LeVar Ball said one of the greatest things I've ever heard one time. And it was derogatory, and he got in trouble for it. But he said, stay in your lane.
Tell us who you are here, buddy.
Hi, my name's Mark Asher. Mark Asher, fraternity brother of one Ryan Madrid. I don't know if we're supposed to say that, but
yeah, it's good.
Friend
Our fraternity's gone, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
kicked off campus.
Disappointing. How it took this long is shocking. But anyway, yep, Mark Asher, own a local wealth management firm here in Scottsdale. And I've had a couple different careers since I graduated NAU back in 1996. One, of course, which probably more people know me from, would be Sports Talk Radio.
Can you tell by his voice that he used to do? I actually think about you when I do this. By the way. It's not as good as yours, no way. So this is Mark Asher, my longtime friend and fraternity brother, and he is the fourth fraternity brother that's on the show, and he's reminded us of that a few times already today. Yeah. But it wasn't on purpose, you know. No. It was kind of like who I saw more. Yeah. And then, Noah seemed pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
I don't know what you talked to Parnell about, but that's cool.
And I don't even remember having him on.
And I could see Max being...
Max was good.
Yeah, did he
Max
fit on the couch?
Actually? Did he what?
Did he fit on the couch?
Well, his feet dangled.
But I'm talking about his arms and his chest. And
barely.
Barely. Yeah.
Max, and he probably took offense to this when I said this, but he was shockingly smart. And just... Not that I didn't know he was a smart guy, because I did know he was a smart guy because he was my roommate and he was in a higher level of everything than I was.
Yeah.
But from there's just the business aspect of just things little nuggets that he was throwing out when we interviewed him. I was like, damn, dude.
Very polished.
So rich.
Yeah, exactly. No, Max has done very well.
He's done really, really well. So Mark Asher, previously a radio talk show host. From guys that are our age, everybody probably pretty much remembers Gambo and Ash. The Drive at 5 or the Drive at 3?
It was Drive Home. We started our show, originally it was 1 to 6, 5 hours, which that's a long time to talk sports. And then I forget what year, but we kind of went, just to make room for a different show, we just went to 2 to 6, and we were both like, that's cool. Because 5 hours.
That's a long time.
There was a lot of repeating yourself, hour 1. Well, we said in hour 1, let's say it again in hour 3. And so, we went to 2 to 6, and that was pretty much the main time. But yeah, your typical drive home, sports talk, call in, interviews, guests and stuff like that.
So you're probably the only guy that I knew that was actually doing that career when we were in school, and everybody knew that you were going to go do that because you had a job doing it already in college at a local radio show. In Flagstaff that not many people listen to.
No,
but
not.
But we knew you did it.
Basically, not. Anyway, but that's okay. It was how you cut your teeth, right? You got to get started somewhere. AM 600 KVNA. That was
there. You go.
It was literally a radio station on the side of a road. I mean, do you remember where it was? It was off by the train tracks and
almost like a
hut. Yeah, it was like a hut. And you would drive down this kind of scary dirt road, no lights, and then all of a sudden there was this little door, and you'd go
there
in
by yourself.
I would be there by myself sometimes. I'm like, this is sketchy as all get out. But yeah, it was a good place to start. I did a show called The Locker Room back there, and I mean, it was so when I say ghetto, I mean you want to talk about learning it all. It would be myself, and I had a co-host, right? And then the phone would ring, and you'd see it blink, right? So someone wanted to call in.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have a producer.
Right.
So the other guy would talk, and I'd lean forward. KVNA. Yeah. Who's this? Yeah. This is Vince. All right, hold on, Vince. Hey, Vince. Put Vince on hold. Hey, let's go out to Vince in Flagstaff. And Vince would get, hey, guys. And then that's how we did it.
He's
right?
like, I'm the NAU football fan.
Yeah, the insider.
The fan.
The one
fan.
So it was, doing stuff. I remember I did high school baseball and football games, and I loved play-by-play, and so I would do all these Coconino, Sonawa, Flagstaff games, right? And I'll never forget one time I'm at, I think it was Flag High, and the phone line that we had to run was like in the coach's office. It was like 200 feet of phone line, right? So I had to go to like Walmart, get this phone line, and so I'm running it, and there was adapters because I didn't have enough, So I'm in the middle of a game, third inning, about to call. All of a sudden, boom, we're off the air. I see like a 4-year-old with my phone line walking. He had unplugged the whole thing, and I had to go like plug it back in. I mean, it was boots on the grassroots, boots on the ground. Figure it out.
Yeah,
right? Figure it out.
So when you graduated, did you go right into working at the radio station? Weren't you doing color for ASU at one point?
I did sidelines for ASU football. Okay. That was about a year or two later. So the interesting story is, I think you were. Did you go to Mazatlan with us?
I did go to Mazatlan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on my way to Mazatlan, I was trying to get a job at the local TV station in Flagstaff.
Okay.
Channel 2. Like the local, I was going to be the weekend sports anchor. I went in, did a pretty good job, and so I'm literally leaving the apartment to go to the airport to go to Phoenix to go to the airport, whatever. And the phone rings, and it's that station. And they're like, hey, could you come in right now and talk about this job? And I was like, I'm literally heading to the airport. I go, but I'll come in. They're like, no, just call us when we get back. When I came back, they had filled the job.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, oh. So that made the decision once I was done. I just said, okay, I'm going to go to Phoenix. And so I go to Phoenix. I interview there's a job opening at the time it was called KGME, 1360 AM. And, I didn't even know what the job was for. I just knew there was an opening. So I go down there. I meet with the guy. His name was Tim Liotta. And so we're going through it. We're sitting there. We're talking. And I'm telling him my background and all this. And at the end of the interview, he says, well, it was nice to meet you. I don't think I'm going to hire you for this job. And I was like, oh, I thought I nailed it. I'm like, I feel like I answered your questions pretty solid here. And he goes, yeah, you're overqualified for the position I'm going to give you.
I was right out of
okay.
college.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I said, I'll tell you what. Get my foot in the door. I'll make the rest happen. He goes, well, that's kind of cocky, don't you think? And I go, well, you just told me I'm overqualified for the job. I'm feeling a little cocky right now. He goes, all right, you're hired. My first shift, Ryan, was midnight to 8 a.m. on a Saturday night. Not on the air, by the way. Not on the air. Pushing buttons once an hour. You had to play the legal ID, right? So I would play about 3 minutes of commercials, and you had to push the button. Now it's all automated. They don't do that anymore. But back in the day, there was no automation. You had to push the button, and it would play you're listening to KGME, Phoenix, whatever. And so that was it. And so I would show up at work on a Saturday night at midnight and push a button, and I was like, man, now I know what the guy was saying. Like, anyone was overqualified for this job, right? And so I did that, for a while. And I was like, this sucks. I was waiting tables at some Mexican food restaurant at the Arizona Center, and I was just like, dude, this is awful, right? But I was there, and I actually figured it out that I only had, I've never told this story before, but I did have a system. So I was trying to live a normal life, but then all of a sudden your weekends come and you're up from midnight to 8. Like, that's not a normal life. So I would come in. There was no one else in the building. It was just me in the studio. So I would roll in, right? And I had an alarm clock, right? Yeah. Old school alarm clock. And then at midnight, I'd push the button, and then I would lay my pillow on the ground. I'd lay down. I'd set my alarm for 12:56 p.m. or a.m., right? And the alarm would go off. I'd wake up, hit the button, play the 4 commercials, 1:55 a.m., and I'd just do that. So I would get like these little 40-minute pockets of sleep, but it was like I was getting paid to sleep. They didn't know any better. As long as I played the legal identification.
Did you make it every time?
Oh, yeah.
Never missed.
Never missed. I never missed. I would make the alarm really loud.
How long did you last there?
Well, so I did that it was probably I probably did 4 or 5 weekends, right? Okay. And I was like, this is garbage, right? Yeah. So then I started asking the program director, Tim, I said, hey, I'd love to try to get on the air. And he goes, well, we don't have any openings. I said, all right. So then what I would do is I'd go in one of the side studios in my free time there, and I would record a sports update, right? So they had these live sports updates, and I would record them. They're about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes long, and I would put them on a cassette tape, and I'd walk into his office every day, hand him a tape. Hey, will you listen to this? Tell me what you think. And I did that. I'm not BSing you for like 30 straight days. Like, hey, will you do this? And he would just be like, what the, you know. Take
Did you ever listen to him?
And, well, I don't know, but like day 31, that might be a little exaggeration, but not too far afterwards, I walked in his office one day with the tape, and he goes, get the blank out of here. And I go, whoa, dude, I just want to have you listen. He goes, you start updates on Monday, right?
Okay.
And I was like, holy shit, that worked, right? Like, that worked. Like, I got in. So I then, instead of being on the weekends, I was now working like 9 to 2. You know, during the week.
Yeah.
And I was the update guy during the Jim Rome show.
Oh, I remember that, which Jim Rome was huge at that
time. You might not know this story. I should have brought the audio, but
I do remember this story.
So this is great.
Yeah.
This is really what took it off. And it's a great story. For those of you, I mean, Jim Rome still does a show to this day, but back then, like late 90s, early 2000s, like he was
the man.
The man. Like his show
sports radio, he was the man.
It was lights out. So long story short, Jim Rome, I'm doing the show. You know, I'm on the air for a minute and a half during his commercial breaks. No big deal. I don't know Jim Rome from a hole in the wall, right? He's broadcasting from LA, and it's coming in on satellite. So he would have different guests on, and when he had these guests on, he would talk about getting what's called jungle karma. So jungle, his show was called Jim Rome in the Jungle. So jungle karma, right? So anyway, I go. They have Jeremy Roenick on from the Coyotes, right?
Love him.
And he's on the radio in the morning. And I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, he's a local guy. So that night, I go to the Coyotes game. JR has like 2 goals, an assist, the game winner, you know, has a great game. So I decide, I don't know Jeremy Roenick at all at this point. I go up to him, and while I've got my microphone and my tape recorder in my hand, I turn it on ahead of time. So it catches our interaction before I ask him the question. And I said, hey, JR, Mark Asher, I produced the Jim Rome show. I want to get your take on jungle karma. And Jeremy Roenick gives this like awesome answer, right? Oh, JR, you know, going on the jungle, man, I'll go on every day if I have games like this. Being in the jungle is what it's all about. That's how the soundbite ends, right?
Yeah.
So I'm all excited. This is gold. So I go back. Next morning, I call the producer of the Jim Rome show, Travis Rogers. They called him T-Rog. I said, dude, I got this great audio from Jeremy, blah, blah. Do you want it? He's like, yeah, bro, that's awesome. Send it over. Send the whole thing. Later that afternoon, Jeremy Roenick says, you know, yesterday we had JR, and he starts going into the story. And he goes, one of the local guys from our affiliate in Phoenix caught up with JR and had this epic exchange, right? They play the part where I say, JR, Mark Asher, I produced the Jim Rome show, right? So that part plays. And as soon as it plays, I went, oh my God, this is going out over the air. And so Jeremy gives the answer, and then then Jim Rome comes on, and he goes, because JR finished with being in the jungle, what it's all about. And he goes, yep, being in the jungle, what it's all about. He goes, actually, you know, in his Jim Rome voice, what it's all about is my boy Mark Asher from our affiliate in Phoenix lying to Jeremy Roenick, telling him he produces the Jim Rome show. Hey, Ash, why don't you just tell him you are Jim Rome, right? And he just starts laying into me, and I'm like awkwardly in this studio going, oh my God, it's over. It's over. It's all over, right? And he goes, dude, it's cool, man. He goes, if you're not lying, you're not trying. You can use my name to get girls, money, jobs. I don't care. That a boy Ash, right? And he's, I'm like, oh my God.
I was going to say, he turned it as a positive.
He did, but that's not what I was expecting, right? So I hear footsteps running down the hallway. It's the PD, and I'm like, oh God, here we go. He's like, is he talking about you? I'm like, mm-hmm. Cut it up. Next thing I know, I mean, I've just started updates. I've got a promo about me running on the show every day. And dude, from there, it just like jumped. It was weird. I know and I actually went up to Jim Rome the following year. I was in Los Angeles for the D-backs first game in LA against the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And I introduced myself, and I was like, hey man, I just want you to know, like, and he goes, no, dude, it was cool. You know, he was really cool. And he's about this tall, by the way. He's a little dude. But I was like, hey, I just want you to know I'm not running around telling you people. I was just nervous. I didn't know Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah.
I meant to say I run the show in Phoenix. He's like, bro, it's cool. And so it was really good. But that clip kind of like helped like make a name for myself a little bit. And then that's when the Gambo and Lyotta show ended, and they were trying to get a guest host or, you know, a fill-in, and they were bringing people in from all over the country and trying all these people out. And then when they didn't have someone trying, it was me that would fill in with them.
Yeah.
And at the end, they asked Gambo, like, what do you think? He's like, I like working with Mark. And they're like, what? Because I was 23.
Yeah.
Wow.
24.
And
like
he was
went
probably
viral.
What, 33 or 30?
He's about 8 years older than me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
8 or 9, yeah, something like that. So yeah, he was young 30s, and he kind of chose me, and they were like, all right. They probably loved it because they didn't have to pay me much, right?
Yeah.
And so I got a contract, and then I don't know, the rest is history. Right?
So with the Gambo Nash show, at that time, you guys were competing against who else? There was like one other, because you were on what, 620 or 910?
Well, at the time it was 1360.
Okay.
And then there was like a bunch of sales. 1360 got bought out, and then we were on 550, which then became KFY. The company that bought them then decided to take. It's kind of a long story, but KFYI was on 910. They put
this is KFYI. AM radio for everybody.
AM radio, yeah.
It still exists.
Google it, kids. Google it. If you have a Tesla, they don't I let you listen to AM radio. It's just
that's
FM only.
They don't, do they?
No, there's no AM. It's crazy. Anyway, but back in the day, the AM was okay. Anyway, but they put us on 550, and then 550 was the better signal. Yeah. So they put KFYI on 550, which they're still there today, and they put us on 910. And then 910, we were there for about 9 years, and then that's when we left for KTAR. That's another great side story, by the way.
So what was your most memorable moment during that little run before you guys switched over to the new station? I mean, you had a lot of you interviewed so many people. At that time, it was Nash, Shaq was around.
Shaq, yeah.
The Diamondbacks won the World Series.
That was one of the most memorable, being at the D-backs. I actually have a piece in my house that is pictures from my old school, dude, 35 millimeter, after you take the picture, you got to wind it, right? Yeah. And not digital, I had to go and develop. But I took my camera to Game 7. I'm like, dude, I'm at the World Series, right?
Yeah.
And they win. Gonzo gets the hit. I watched the hit. I'm at the game. I watched the hit from underneath, right outside the locker room. They had a TV for the security guard. Me and all Phoenix media were right there. I was in the main press room where they were going to bring in the guys, and all the New York beat writers were in there. Alfonso Soriano was going to be the MVP. They were all talking about it. The game was over, right? Yeah. It was 2-1. It was over. We weren't coming back on Mariano Rivera.
Right.
And Gonzo gets that hit, and as soon as it landed, I stood up. We all sprinted. I was on the field 10 seconds after that. I mean, it was raining. It was weird. It was raining. People forget that. It was like tears from Arizona Sports Fans. And I'm just running around like a madman, just trying. It was just nuts. Jerry Colangelo standing right next to me, bawling. It was great.
Wow, that's cool.
So I had my camera, and I'm like, dude, screw it, dude. And so I started taking pictures, right? And the PR guy's yelling at me, Asher, stop taking pictures. You're not allowed to take pictures. You walk away. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. What are you going to kick me out? This is Game 7 of the World Series. And so that was one of the greatest. Just because, I'm like you and I, we're born and raised here. That was the first championship. I thought we'd get one with Barkley. We didn't.
Right.
So that was the first one. That was really cool. I'm trying to think.
Did you become friends with any of the guys on any of the teams?
Yeah, I would say Larry Fitzgerald and I were pretty good buddies. Yeah. Shane Doan Shane Doan's friends with everybody. He's the nicest human being ever. Yeah. Jeremy Roenick, for sure. Still will send him a text every once in a while. Gonzo. Gonzo's friends with a lot of people, too. I got to know some of the players when I worked for the ASU. That was a pretty cool gig because I got to travel with them and go. We went to Notre Dame. We went to all these different, I saw every stadium in the Pac-12.
Right.
I did that for a couple of years, and that was fun. Just sideline reporter, Todd Heap, Pat Tillman. I used to do interviews with Pat Tillman. This was before I was a talk show host. I was still the sideline reporter for ASU, and I had this cell phone that I would bring, and it was old school. It was in a suitcase. You'd open it up, and you remember those with the antenna?
Those,
yeah. And so I would get the guys to go on the afternoon show. This was before I even did the afternoon show. This was back before that. And Tillman was there, and I'd always say, hey, Tilly, can you do the thing? Oh, yeah, cool. And every single time, he was a very smart man, and he knew, but he liked to F around, right?
Yeah.
And so every single time I'd get him on, and he'd be going on the show, and they'd introduce him. Hey, join us right now from ASU Football is Pat Tillman. And he'd be like, hold on, guys, I can't hear shit. And he'd look at me and be like he just wanted to say shit on the air, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, come on, man. And so, but then the coolest part for me, and it wasn't just him, it was all these players, where ASU would practice was about a quarter mile from the actual locker room. And they would miss the tram to do the interview with me, so I had to give them a ride home, back, and they're in their pads.
Right.
Dude, my car would smell.
Smelly.
And these big offensive linemen, but then I would have 5 minutes with Tillman and Ryan Keeley, remember him? All these old guys, and I got to know them pretty good,
Yeah.
So one year they went to Hawaii for a bowl game, right? So I got to go to Honolulu to do the game.
That's at the Aloha Bowl.
The Aloha Bowl, yep.
Yeah.
And so we go, And one night they got to go out, like the players got to go out, and I was friends with a few of the guys. Mason Unk, do you remember him? And there's a few guys. Anyway, so they said, "Hey, do you want to go out with us tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And they're like, "Hey, you can't be the you can't be
the reporter guy."
Yeah. I was like, "All right."
Got to be the bro.
And I'm like, "Well, what am I?" They're like, "Well, you're on the team." I'm like, "Okay, what position?" They're like, "You're the kicker." I'm like, "Screw you guys, right?" And they're like, "Dude, what are you going to be, a linebacker?" Right. I'm like, "All right, I'm the kicker." Dude, by the end of the night, not only was I the kicker, I held the NCAA record for the longest field goal ever made in college football, 65 yards. I'll never forget this. They're telling all the girls this. They're telling, and there were other football teams that were out that night. Oregon State was playing in another game. So this big, like 6'5", 290-pound, big black dude, just buff, comes up to me. He's like, "Yo, man." I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "I remember that kick. That was sick." And I was like, "Yeah, man." Like, it's just totally, you know what I mean? Oh, the story just took off. It was phenomenal. It was great.
Where'd you go out?
Memories were fun.
Like back in that day, like were you in like Old Town?
No, this is Hawaii.
No, we were in Hawaii.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They got to go out one night while we were there, and I got to go with them. So we were out. I don't know, we were just at some local pub or whatever. But yeah, the football guys were like, "I remember that."
Like, so as you were progressing through the whole Gambo and Ash deal, where was there ever like struggles with you guys, like between the two of you with the stations? Like, how did it work out with, like, did you guys negotiate together when you wanted like pay raises? What about like even the advertising gigs? 'Cause I remember you had like Rondo Pools at one time, and Gambo had his own thing.
Right. Yeah.
How did that all work?
So it was a little strange because he had been doing the show a couple years before me. So at our first employer, it was a problem because I was always making, 20, 30 grand a year less than he was.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I was cool with that. But like years 7, 8, I was like, "All right, dude, this is we're the same, right?" And so I kept going and asking I would ask for a raise to get us closer. And you know what they would do? They would give me like a 6% raise, and they wouldn't give Gambo a raise. I'm like, well, that's not fair to him.
Right.
Like, he's working hard. Like, it was just so
weird,
stupid the way they did it. And finally, that's what made us leave. We got, contacted kind of like under the radar, KTAR, which is flagship 620 long-time station. They were going all sports, and the word was out. And they contacted us behind the scenes. And so we were meeting in like awkward like hotel rooms. Like, no one could see that we were talking to these people, right? And so the one thing I told John, I said, "I'm not leaving unless we're the same. Like, we got to be – I don't care if you make more money because you hustle and do more commercials or whatever." I said, "But we got to be equal." And he's like, "Absolutely." So we went in and we got huge pay raises to go and jump. They tried to sue us, but we had protected ourselves pretty good. So we had an out in our contract, and they didn't know about it, and we did. And so they were blindsided pretty hard, and they lost millions of dollars of revenue from the ad because all the advertisers just went with us. But yeah, that was it wasn't contention between John and I. Like, I never was mad at him. Like, it is what it is. Like, you make your money. We did almost get in one fight off air.
Oh, yeah.
He would have beat my ass. Yeah. He was a boxer, like, I mean, but it got close.
Wow.
I think I threw a football in his face, and he came at me, and I was like, "Uh-oh, here's how it ends." But we stopped.
That's when you built the house in West Wing and the massive pool with all the boulders
pool
and spent all your
boulders and
all your money.
It's goodbye.
And then it went down 500,000.
It just sold for 1.4.
Did it really?
Last year.
Jeez.
1.4.
Remember, it was worth you were like $1 million into it almost, right?
No, not that much, but like 758 probably. Yeah.
And then it was worth like 350 at one point.
Sold. Yeah, it sold for 420.
Yeah.
Wow. Is this where I cry?
Well, remember
we
were neighbors. We lived right next door to each other.
So I went through the same thing.
Yeah, we all did. I mean, it was.
I mean, I had like
but in hindsight, I'm like,
$400,000. Well, my neighbor across the street still lives there, and his house is like, he went through like the heartache of like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm never gonna leave." And he was telling me the other day, he's like, "Yeah, the house is worth like $850 now." Like our old house.
It was.
I paid.
It was
$290.
I paid like probably.
Well, I actually short sold my house and then bought the house next door, the exact same house. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And I paid $290. Yeah.
Yeah. So I forget what I was all in on that house, but call it 5.
Yeah.
Right. With all the yard and the pool and all that, and just put it all into the house. Had made a bunch before it even built because they took us like 18 months to build those houses, and then it went to auction for $420.
Yeah.
That dude turned around and sold it like 3 months later for $6. And then that guy sold it for 1.4 last year.
Jesus.
Oops.
Anyways, this is a real estate show, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, I like it. It was good.
So when did you, well, let's just move fast forward a little bit. So tell us a story about how your career with Gambo and Ash and Sports Talk Radio kind of ended, because now obviously you're a financial advisor.
Right.
And so you made a step into that direction right around pretty close to the same time I moved into the mortgage business.
Yeah.
So we kind of were dealing with that sort of stuff at the same time. But what happened with that show, and what had that all end? And you can tell it how you want.
Yeah, it's a great question. I still to this day don't really quite get it. We were number one. We were the only sports show to ever be ranked number one in all of radio. Like that an AM sports show doesn't get ranked number one, right? And we beat the rock stations. We beat everyone one time, and then other times we were right there, 1, 2, 3. And that was like unheard of. Like that doesn't happen in AM Sports Talk Radio. You don't beat KUPDs and the other big country stations and stuff like that. But we did, and so everything was rocking. And then we had done the show for 13 years, and they had started to change the way radio was done. So back in the day, I don't want to bore your people with this, but there used to be a rating system called Arbitron, and it was a diary. And like Ryan Madrid would get his diary in the mail, and if you decided to do it, they give you like $20, and then you would fill in, literally write in what you listened to Monday. Right. Well, it was like a popularity contest, right? Mm-hmm. So back in the day, they would just be like, I listen to Gambo and Ash 1 to 6, and just put an arrow down, and we get credit for all of it. Well, then right around 2009, 10, they brought a new system of rating into play called PPM, Personal People Monitors or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was a pager. First of all, in 2009, were you rocking a pager anymore? No one was, right? So it's this pager that they would wear, and it would literally listen and would dictate what you were, note what you were listening to. So the guy that used to write 2 to 6 really might be listening from 2 to 2:30, and then his kid gets in the car and he puts on music, and then his wife gets in the car and listens to soft rock. And so I don't get that, right? So that's legit, but here was the problem. They had 1,100 pagers in the state of Arizona. 12 of them, were males 25 to 54, which is our target audience. 12.
Yeah.
I'm like, there are 12 people in this world like dictating my livelihood right now. That just doesn't seem like a good enough sample size.
Yeah.
And they got into this weird where like we just would, if you listen to the show now, it's the same stuff. They repeat themselves constantly. They would act like every show was a 5-minute show. And then so 5 minutes, because that's what you had to get to register, was they had to listen for 5 minutes. Then we start something else for 5 minutes, and something else, and then come back, and then repeat yourself. And I was like, this is not this is not how I grew up doing radio, right? I know things change and evolve, but it wasn't fun anymore. Like we used to get old-time baseball players on and interview them for like 25 straight minutes, just blow up the clock, no commercials, because they're telling us stories about Ty Cobb and Stan Musial, and like, what am I going to do? Go tell you about the hockey game from last night? Like, this is what people want to hear. And it just got away from that. So then, one day they called us all in and they said, hey, you got meetings with the PD each individually. And I had a feeling they were maybe going to ask us to take pay cuts, which I was like, whatever. I always kept my salary kind of low because there was so much other money to be made, right? With commercials and endorsements. So I never wanted my salary to be too high, but it had crept up there decently. And so they called me in and they said, hey, we'll meet at the Swizz. You know the Swizz? Swizzle Inn. Over there on 16th Street in Bethany. Yep. Should have been my first inkling that something was up. So I roll in, right?
Dark dive bar.
Dark dive bar where no one will see. And I'm surprised they didn't just shoot me there in the back. But I walk in and my PD's there, but my GM's there too. And I'm like, uh-oh. Like, what's he doing here, right? I'm like, this is not good. So we sit down. They had a Bud Light in front of me. I had just signed a big endorsement deal with Budweiser. I was going to be the voice of Budweiser for Arizona. Like, it was a big deal, and I was like excited about it. It was going to be good money and blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I got to drink Bud Light in public. I said, otherwise I might get fired. And I kind of stopped, like, so what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? They're like, well, tonight was your last show. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, can I get a shot? Let's hold on. What? And I tried to ask, like, what did I do something wrong? Like, no, we're just going through some changes. And I mean, I think there's a few things that people forget when it happened. So I got let go, and I still had like a year or like 6 months left on my contract. Plus I had just signed a 3-year extension. which was only guaranteed for about 90 days. But still, I had a contract. So this was a bold move. But what people forget is not only did they get rid of me, half of the Gambo and Ash show, longest running show in Arizona at the time, history, 13 years, they also demoted Gambo to midday. People forget this. So they took Doug and Wolf, because it was not too far after the Super Bowl run, and Wolf was like a hot commodity.
Yeah.
They had done the morning show. They took them, put them in afternoon drive, right? They were Mike and Mike, a syndicated, free, by the way, you don't pay those guys, show in the morning, right? So now we're you see what we're doing here, right? We're eliminating the salary, and then they put Gambo with Dave Burns, who they still do the show today, but they were in the midday, like 10 to 2 or something like that. Right. I mean, that's a demotion for Gambo. Like, he wasn't happy about it either. And so they did that for about a year and then realized it was a disaster. Doug and Wolf needed to be in the morning, and Gambo should have been in drive. So they switched it back. So I never really got a great answer, but I know I got paid for a while to go away and, wasn't quite sure what the heck I was going to do. But it was shocking. It was scary, too, because, it's all I'd ever done. Like, we just talked about it, college. It's all I ever did, and I always knew I was 37 when I got fired. And I always knew that I wasn't going to be one of those guys, right, in radio, because I see them. And some are my good friends, and I see them struggle, and they'll take any job just because that's all they know. That's all they can do. And I was like, kind of like you're like, I can do something else. Like, I don't have to do this. I can do a lot of things. Not that I was educated in financial advising at all. I wasn't. Right. But I felt like I had more to give, and I just didn't want to be that guy that chase jobs. And I kind of looked at it as an opportunity. At 37, you can reinvent yourself at 37, right? If you're 57 or it's a little tougher, 47.
Watch it.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want, but you can.
No, I don't know what you're saying.
You can reinvent yourself at the time, but it takes.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Takes,
for sure.
It's
hard
to reinvent myself into this new position. From a financial standpoint, so it took a minute to get to where I was.
And I also feel like it's not like you came from another business job, right? You were like the sports radio guy.
Yeah, I wore
shorts and right, and then now
golf shirts.
People are going to be like, "Oh, cool, yeah, I'm going to invest my money with the guy that was doing the midday drive."
Right?
Hey, Gambo Nash.
Yeah, it was. It was very difficult, man.
I remember that, but I also remember you. I think everybody, including myself, probably gave you this advice. Was like, "Well, dude, so many people because of the business. You can tap into this database of like all these." I mean, you had a lot of like middle-aged men that thought you were like really cool.
Oh yeah,
right.
I was huge amongst 40-year-old taxi drivers and UPS guys. But they loved me.
But right, it was true though, right? So that was like the thought process. Plus, you knew a lot of athletes. You just knew a lot of people in town, business owners and stuff, because of your job.
Correct.
Being on the radio for so long, you were somewhat of a pseudo local celeb.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain level.
Yeah. And so the thought process was, this is probably a good move to go into the financial space. We had friends that were already doing it that you were really close with. And was it as easy as you thought it might be?
No. So John Arnold, our buddy, fraternity brother, called me. He was my advisor, right?
Yep.
I didn't have a ton with him, but I had money with him, and he managed it and had life insurance and, whatever. And he called me. He's like, "Hey, I know what your next job is going to be." I was like, "Oh, yeah? What's that?" And he goes, "Yeah, we're going to open a wealth management firm together." And I literally hung up on him. and he called me back, and he goes, "Did you just hang up on me?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Why?" I go, "Because you're talking stupid. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know a single thing about that. Like, nothing.
Yeah.
That's why I pay you." And he goes, and he said what you just said. He goes, "It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'll teach you the rest. You have a name, you have, people trust you, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Let's go play golf." So it was free golf. So I was like, "Yeah." And then another guy that we know, Dylan Mikas, right? So Dylan calls me, or we go out to dinner, and Dylan, I don't know if he was the closer or whatever, but I said to him, I said, "Hey, what would you do if you were me?" And he goes, "I'm going to tell you this right now." He goes, "There's two kinds of people in this world that try to get in this business. There's the Harvard, numbers cruncher, nerd, but like
analyst
that can crunch and they're just smarter than everyone in the room." And he goes, "And then there's guys like you, right, who might not know any of that, but you can hold a conversation in any room. You can take over a room. You can blah, 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 blah." He goes, 9 out of 10, I hire you. And that was like kind of the deciding factor. I was like, all right, I was looking at like a corporate insurance job, and could pay big dollars, but it was going to be a grind for like a while. And I was like, I don't know if I really, it didn't speak to me. And so anyway, so I did it. And then the hard part was then I had to open the books and start studying for these tests. And I mean, bro, it was like foreign language.
Yeah, it was like Chinese.
How many of those are there? Like, I remember when you were getting all of that. Like,
well, I have I shouldn't say I have it anymore, but I had my Series 7.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and
you remember that test?
That was the hardest test. Do you have that? Oh, yeah. That was the hardest test. Dude, it was a 6-hour test.
Oh, it was brutal.
Dude, and I studied for months.
Yeah,
because I wasn't very smart. But I'm, younger people.
Think about it, 37.
I
dude.
know. People, I knew the girl that was at Solomon Smith Barney that was like, she took like a week and got like a 91 on it. I took 3 months and got a 77.
Yeah. Which people would always ask you after you pass the test. And they go, "What'd you get?" I go, A+. They go, A+, isn't it like a number? I go, A+, P, A+, 2 S's, pass. That's all that matters, because no one needs to know if I got a 74 or a 94. It doesn't matter. All you do, it was just to get through the process. But yeah, I had to take the Arizona Life and Health. That one was pretty easy. And then Series 7 and 63 and 65, and it's just
and this keeps going if you want to get like different levels.
Yeah, I've stopped.
For like a planner too.
So I do have so in my progression as a financial advisor, about 3-4 years ago, I kind of took over our 401k department. So I manage about 50 corporate 401ks, right? So like companies throughout the Southwest, their 401k. So like all the participants, through like John Hancock or
right.
And in order to do that on a fee base, that's how I don't like to work on commissions. I like fee based, earn your keep, kind of thing. You have to become an accredited investment fiduciary, AIF. So I went back to school again, did that. That one wasn't too bad because I'd been 6-7 years in the business, right? 8 years, whatever. So I understood the lingo, but back in 2011, I didn't understand any of it. I didn't know what calls, puts, options. I didn't know. And you don't really need to know it. That's the funny thing, right? It's just like a real estate exam, or I'm sure the mortgage exam. You don't have to.
Well, there's a lot of rules and regulations and stuff that you just need to know for the test.
For the test,
technically need to know, but you're not going to deal with it on a day-to-day basis by any means. Yeah.
Tell me about the Investment Act of 1940. Well, that doesn't come up in my daily life as a financial advisor, but you have to know it to pass. Right?
So how long did it take before you were starting to make like some serious ground? And was there ever a time where you were like, "Shoot, is this going to work?"
So this isn't braggadocious at all, but my first
word was.
Well,
you should have said brag.
Brag. I'm trying to. Oh, brag is that what the kids say?
That's like Valley Girl speak from like 1983.
Braggadocious. So my first year in the business, I finished in our broker dealer, which was at the time called AXA Investments, and now it's called Equitable. But at the time, I finished number 9 in the country, and I finished number 1
as a rookie or as a
rookie.
So 4 rookies?
4 rookies.
Oh, okay.
Not.
Okay, I was like, geez.
4 rookies.
Yes.
So first year they call them A class.
Yeah.
First year guys, A class. I finished number 9 in the country. I finished number 1 in the Southwest. And then in the Southwest, they have an A, and then your second year is B class, third year is C class, and then fourth year is called DSF. I don't remember what that stood for, but I was one of only a few guys in the history to sweep. So I won all 4.
Oh, wow.
So every year.
So all these years I've been worried about you, you've been killing it?
Well, no, but it's all relative. Like, I mean, I'll call it like it is. Year 1, I think I made probably about $100,000, $95,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I was making way more than that in radio.
Yeah.
And so for it to go right from here to there, I mean,
there
was
cut for sure.
There was nervous times, and the hard part is when you're just starting. You're literally like you're fishing for dinner, right? Like you're just trying to get anything to come in. Like I'll sell an annuity, I'll sell a life insurance policy. Like Ryan, you need life insurance. Like you're just trying to, because those commissions keep you going.
Right.
Eventually, once you realize that the way to go is just, what we call AUM or assets under management, where you're charging a fee to manage a portfolio, it's less than what a commission would be up front, but it happens every month, right? And now you build that. And so you're not starting every month at 0. That was hard, man. So you're starting every month at nothing.
So what are the struggles with that, though? Because if
wardrobe
the client watches if the client watches his account like most do.
Yeah.
And they realize, okay, we just paid you your asset under management fee, and his account's gone down.
Oh, sure.
Do you get a lot of like dealing with those sort of phone calls, like what's going on, or your client's savvy enough to know that it's just
I think
the market?
the funny thing is you'll or just a market downturn, forget the fees, right?
Yeah.
Market downturn, pullback 10%, right?
Yeah.
You know who I hear from? The people that have like 50 grand.
Right.
The people that have millions
yeah,
or 800 grand or whatever,
right,
they get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. It's going to come back. I get
it's
it.
The ones that
what are we doing?
Yeah.
Anything major concerns? It's the 34-year-old that rolled over his $50,000 401k from his old job. He's like, dude, it's down $5,000. What do we do? Do we go to cash? I'm like, no, you sit down and shut up. Like, you got time, bro. You're going to go through like 90 of these before you are retired. So just chill. But yeah, I mean, I think I've had a fee conversation maybe 2 or 3 times in 13 years. So, I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah.
First of all, we're charging pretty.
What are our fees nowadays? 1.5%?
Say 1 to the grid, usually. I mean, it depends. I mean, if it's a big, there's negotiation involved, right?
Depends upon how much money.
It just depends on who it is, right? And and how much, heavy lifting we're doing and stuff like that. There's some that are, I don't want to call it sit it and forget it, but they've got in a mindset they just got to go. Yeah. And then there's others that are calling, and be like, hey, what do you guys think of this? Okay, yeah. So if there's more of that, then it might be, but if they're just easy to maintain, it just depends. And we have different markers too. If you hit a number, we'll drop it down. I mean, again, fees don't really come into play. As long as you're doing your job, communicating, that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, I'm still in communications. It's just I'm communicating a different narrative now than, hey, the Cardinals just signed Jake Plummer to an extension. Now it's...
Love Jake Plummer.
Yeah, of course.
Dude, so how often do you go to the office every day, or do you still spend a ton of time doing business development, or like how does that whole thing work? Because you still got to grow your book. Is it, at this point you're still trying that, or is it a lot of just word of mouth now, referrals coming in from clients, friends, and that sort of stuff?
I've never made a cold call in my life. That's weird. I've never made a cold call where you see the stories, like they sit in a closet and they're just, here's your phone book. Come out when you called 300 people. Like, I never did that. Luckily, I had some built-in connections. What really took off for me was probably about year 4, when I think people finally realized, like, oh, he's not going back to radio. Yeah. Right? Oh, I think a lot of people...
Little did they know that you did go back to radio.
I did, but I mean, not as a full-time gig, right? I think people were like, you know how guys get out of business and all of a sudden they're, maybe selling mortgages or, but you realize they're not really in it, like to be a profession. Totally. They're doing it. Or, hey, I'm selling cars or I'm doing whatever. It's just a gap, right? Till you, that next radio job opens. I think about year 4, maybe 5, when they realize like, oh man, he really is not ever going back. And I tried to tell them like, I'm not going back. They could offer me X amount. I don't want to do it, because you're hired to be fired in that business, right? I have a business now that I'm an equal share owner, right? It's got value. I've got a book of business that has value, right? If I decide to retire, my book of business is going to help.
It's an asset to sell.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And make that happen. And so, I'm not going to get fired because someone decides, I think this guy could do it better. Like, I'm in it, right? Yeah. And there's as a business owner, there's a sense of, accomplishment and security with that, right? Just as long as I don't break the law, I'm not getting fired. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm good. So I think that is, reassuring. And then that's kind of where it started to take off and people realized, and then it's just been, it's been word of mouth. It's been, you open up a 401k for one guy who's the CFO here. And then he's at that meeting, he goes, hey, by the way, I gave my 2 weeks today. And I'm like, dude, I'm here signing your group up for the 401k. And he's like, don't worry about it, you're good. And then he goes here, and now I'm the 401k guy there, and now he's over here. And so now, because of him, I have 3 big 401ks that I manage, all because his relationship, that kind of stuff. You just, you're awesome at this. Like, everyone even talks about Ryan Madrid. Like, Ryan Madrid knows everybody, right? And that's a good thing, though. Maybe.
It is.
No, but it's good. Like, that's part of your success in life is, are you back there crunching numbers? I don't know.
No.
My guess is not.
Not at all.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I've become expertise, if you will, in the 401k space. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to do that. When I bring in a client, let's say I bring in a 7-figure client, right? I have a guy on my team. His name's Ben Miles. He's my beautiful mind.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? Smart. Yeah. Smartest guy in the room. Anywhere I go, he's just brilliant.
Right.
He handles all of that.
Yeah.
He gets a cut. Here's your cut. Do everything, and then he's in on the meetings, and then so we have this we have a plan. We're not just out there willy nilly hunting, and
you have a team.
We have a team that has we have different guys in different roles,
right?
And then my role is if someone finds a business that needs a 401k or is unhappy with their current 401k provider or the actual advisor themselves, then that's where we come into play. So it's been cool because a few things happen. One is that, you start to get a little bit of name in the business, right? And then you just start getting bigger opportunities, right? Just, I don't know if it's just natural progression or whatever, but, I don't get a lot of calls on, hey, I got 30 grand. What do I do? Which nothing wrong with that, but I've got guys on my team that'll gladly do that, but we've got bigger eyes, right? We want to help corporations and business owners really, make sure they're getting the most out of what they're doing for themselves and their employees. So that part's been cool. It's just kind of been a natural, I don't know.
We talked about this today, actually. Tricia can touch on this a little bit, but we talked about it today, how it was today, right? This morning? Or was it yesterday?
No, yesterday.
Yesterday. About the difference between actually the person who does the job from start to finish versus the person who gets the job, gets the business and hands it to the team to do. And maybe in our space, it might be a little bit different where referral partners may want, if they refer somebody to you, they want you to do the job.
Right.
And some people struggle with that from a business development side of things because they feel like when someone's referred to them, they find out that they're not the one actually doing it, that they don't want to send a deal to them. And my thought has always been act as if like I was the person doing it, but really sell the team and sell the support.
The concept, right?
Yeah. You're a business owner, right? The business owner doesn't do every single thing to do in the business. That's not how it works.
Well, if they do, they're probably not successful.
Exactly
what I said yesterday.
Your construction analogy was
right. So
perfect.
This is what I say. So if I'm building a home, I got a friend that does pools, right? I got a friend that does garage floors and cabinets. I got somebody who's a landscaper and someone that might do flooring in the house. They don't come to my house and lay floors and landscaping for me. I go to them because they're really good at building a business and building a company, and I trust them. I know they have great people that work for them, and I don't call them to say, hey, dude, come over and do this. I say, hey, put me in touch with whoever's going to handle my account when I do this, right? And I know who it's going to be. If it's Noah, I'll do, not Noah Peary, who does Space Solutions. I know that it's his brother. That's always going to be the guy that comes over and does the quote. I don't talk to Noah through the process. Is whatever.
Or vice versa. When you refer someone,
yeah,
you just need to know it's getting done.
That's it.
Right? Yeah. I do the same thing. I used to tell my clients all the time, like when they would come on board, and this was early in the career, but I'll be like, look, I'm your financial concierge, right? I said, literally, if something comes up in your world that you have to buy, decision, whatever, I almost have someone in every category.
Yeah.
I said, so call me.
Yeah.
And so whether it's they think about refinancing or whatever, or they're thinking about they need a living trust done, got them. I needed this, I needed that, cars. There's a few categories I'm like, I don't got anyone there. I have no idea. But you kind of have, and that's what, if you can make, they call them connectors, right?
Yep.
And I think you're a good example of that. Like you can connect people all the time. And I think I do that as well. Like, I have people and I'm, hey, I can't really help you here, but I know who can. But then now
it's fun to do.
It is fun. And when you watch those people then become like acquaintances or allies in different.
Right. I love when I find out later when I forget about the things I connected with.
That you connect, right?
All of a sudden I'll see them together. I'm like,
what are you two doing together?
What are your friends now? I just hooked you up with to do like a deal on something,
absolutely.
Right? And now they're hanging out playing golf.
Ryan's alias for the company is Master Connector.
Yeah, Master for sure.
And I think it's important, but getting back to what we were talking about, it's like getting over that hump though of feeling like, how do you answer that question when people ask you? Like you said, a lot of it has to do with that person. If they're worried about that, that means they're probably not doing a ton of business themselves because they're also probably too encapsulated in their own deals because everything, it goes back to the stressed out person when the market goes down 5% on their account because they had 50,000. Well, it's life or death for them, right? And so it can be that way for, a referral partner as well. But if you're doing a lot of business and you have a good partner, you trust those people to do what you're supposed to do. And so you stay in communication from that aspect, but you got to let it go and trust the fact that we are really good at what we do and we're able to bring in great people to handle our accounts for us.
Yeah.
So trust.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. In my world, in the 401k space, I've learned, I don't want to say my angle, but like a lot of 401ks out there for corporations are bundled, right? So you think of like Cox Communications, right? Mm-hmm. Bundled. And Cox, are they good at cable? Yeah, okay. Are they good at internet? Yeah.
Fine.
How about phone? Who the hell has a phone, right? But we're going to bundle it all for you, Ryan, and we're going to save you money, right? Well, in the 401k space, they do that as well, right? So they'll have, and I'm not, well, I guess I am ripping on, but ADP or Paychex or some of these other that are phenomenal payroll companies, great payroll companies, right? But then they're like, oh, by the way, we do 401k. They don't do 401k. They do, but they don't, because they then siphon it off to someone else, an advisor who may or may not, pay attention to your plan, but they're getting paid on it. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we do in-house TPA, third-party administrator, right?
Yeah.
And they might go do great payroll, but this arm and this arm are like not great. And so I steal the line from I'm forgetting his name now, Ball. Lonzo Ball's dad, Mellow Ball, the crazy dude.
Yeah, I know. LeVar.
LeVar Ball.
Yeah.
LeVar Ball said one of the greatest things I've ever heard one time. And it was derogatory and he got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
But he said, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what he was saying is, you don't know anything about this.
I remember this.
You do this.
He said that to the female.
He said it to a female reporter. He goes, you don't know anything about this. Stay in your lane. Again, I'm not talking about it was great they said it to this woman. I'm just saying the message, stay in your lane. So I use that.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. So when I go try to get 401ks, I say, look, we're going to tear this apart. We're going to give you your great ADP or Paychex payroll company. That's great. I love them. They're awesome at payroll. That's all they're going to do. Then we're going to go find you a record keeper, right? That is what they are good at, whether it's John Hancock or one of these other Lincoln, whatever.
Right.
Great record keeper, right? John Hancock I use all the time. All these other, wholesalers in the business, all you do is use John Hancock. Well, listen, they're number one in the $1 to $10 million space. They're easy to work with. I've got people to help me. I'm a loyal guy. So if I have 35 plans with John Hancock, tough. Like, that's what I don't need to make other friends. They're good at what they do. TPA, I got 2 TPAs I work with. Not 20, 2. They're both very good, and I will refer either one of them out. And then the fourth part is me, right? The advisor. I think I'm pretty good. So then I'm telling these business owners, like, hey, this isn't going to cost you more, but now you've got each individual doing what they do well, right? And that's all you want. Stay in your lane, right? And so you don't need to walk someone through your landscaper and how they're going to do your job.
Yeah.
You just hook them up. They're going to do that. And that's, I don't know.
You're like the director or like the project manager.
I tell everyone I'm the quarterback. I'm the quarterback.
You're the quarterback just navigating through all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to do a rapid fire?
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire?
Yeah.
We're bringing him back. It's been like a year.
I like it.
All right. Where did you go to high school?
Central High School.
Central.
Home of the Bobcats.
Okay.
West
so you're
side.
from like...
The hood. I mean...
well, Central High School on Central Avenue.
Pardon me.
Yeah, but he wasn't from that part.
I lived off of, I lived between Thomas and Osborne on 23rd Avenue growing up.
Why did you go to was it Carl Hayden that's near there?
No, that was
like 83rd Avenue.
Oh, that's further west.
It was my
Washington,
choice. I would have
maybe?
gone to West High. Remember old West High?
Oh, yeah.
But then it closed.
Yeah, so
that
it
was like right down the
exist
street.
Anymore.
No,
yeah.
West High closed. They made it Metrotech. And then, I don't know, I had to go to Central. It wasn't close. It was It was a pain in the butt to get to. I just had to take the city bus.
Okay.
No joke.
So here's your rapid fire question.
Okay, Central High School.
High school, awesome or terrible?
Mix.
Were you an athlete?
I was.
Okay.
I played. Well, it's funny. I don't know if you know this story, but
I knew you played basketball.
I played basketball there. My jersey's
very
actually,
awkward jump shot.
Whatever, it went in. My jersey is actually up in the rafters at Central.
Is it really?
Yeah, when I left, I threw it up there, and they haven't been able to get it down since.
Oh, there we go. Dad jokes, dad jokes.
So, yeah, I played a couple years of varsity basketball. It was fun. I think once I got, my first 2 years were a little awkward. You know, I was kind of shy, and I wasn't, gregarious and all that. And I didn't know anyone because I came from Hurd Elementary School, where all the Central kids came from, like, Madison Meadows and, all the rich kids up Central Avenue. And I was, like, this guy from the West Side. But then once I started with becoming an athlete, then I met the right people, and I felt pretty comfortable. So it was good. It was good.
Good answer. If you could instantly become an expert in something other than what you're already doing, what would it be?
Wife code talk.
That's the most original answer I think we've ever received.
If I could figure out what exactly my wife was trying to get at every single time, golden.
How long have you been married?
I love my wife. A long time. Not a long time. 11 years.
Okay, well, that's a long time.
Yeah.
3 kids?
She's great. But sometimes I'm like, I can see it coming, and I'm like, I know what's coming here. And if I could just decipher it ahead of time, I just avoid so many landmines.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
That is a really good answer.
I'm going to get in trouble later for this. But
yeah, she's
But
great.
if I saw it coming...
Listen, you're the same as everybody else, so it's not against Sammy. It's just every husband and wife probably.
Yes.
They look at it the same way.
Code talk, yes.
All right, so this isn't necessarily super rapid, but favorite Ryan story from back in the DKI days?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Oof, there's a lot.
Okay, a Ryan story. Doesn't have to be like the best.
I mean, well...
It doesn't go into too much that... Yeah.
Is there even one you can possibly...
No, I'm trying to think. I mean, Ryan was the man. I will say this. I found out after the fact, and Ryan knows that we both know this, but I had a girl that I was dating, right, in college. But unbeknownst to me, she also would go hang out with Ryan every once in a while.
Who is that?
We're not saying names, just in case. We got to protect the innocent.
Oh.
You know.
I don't, actually.
You do.
I probably do.
Yeah. Anyway.
We can talk about it.
And it's no big deal. It wasn't
great gal.
Great gal.
Great gal.
Yeah. So that was fun to find out. But not like I wasn't mad at him, right? It was all good. It was fine. But yeah, Ryan, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean,
that's good.
I remember Ryan being really good
enough.
at soccer when he first got up there.
Intramural?
Ryan,
is that a thing?
Yeah.
That was an intramural. That was an intramural.
I think Ryan,
legend.
I'll say this. Ryan's gotten way cooler as he's gotten older, but Ryan thought he was cooler when he was younger.
Oh, no shit.
I'll agree with that.
100%.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
You
100%.
thought you were like the cat's meow in college.
You know what? It was a, let's just pretend. And so, guess what? It worked.
It did. Yeah, no, it worked.
But I definitely, it was more of, I think I had insecurities probably that led me to be a little bit more of an arrogant, somewhat.
But it worked.
I had a lot of friends, but I certainly, I think definitely had a little bit.
I remember Ryan being more athletic than he looked. If that makes sense.
For sure, because he was always
he was
so
a string
thin.
bean. He was pretty good at football.
Yeah.
Pretty good at soccer.
He's
like
very
I was
fast.
like, okay, yeah, he's fast. Mm-hmm. He kind of looked like all he could do was skateboard when he got to you. But he actually had some. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
So I was 6 foot 145.
Yeah, 6'1", 145, soaking wet.
Yeah.
That was like.
So yeah, I think those are and then the cool thing with I think one of the cool things about our fraternity, and I've said this many times to other people, like you go back to those years, right? 92, 96, whatever that run, and I mean we were knuckleheads. We partied. We were a popular fraternity. We had fun. Girls hung out with us. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
We were good at like everything. We were good at intramurals. We were good at smoking weed. We were good at all kinds of stuff, right?
That was the academics.
I mean, whatever. We were good at most things. So the funny thing is, if you look at our class, if you took a 10-year snippet of our, from call it 90 guys that graduated 91, 92 to 2000, dude, there are so many like ballers from our fraternity. It's crazy. Like it's nuts. I mean, guys that own multi-million-dollar corporations, successful lawyers, plastic surgeons, guys like us that have done cool, radio. It's crazy. Like there's not many losers.
I
right?
will agree. It's shocking because number one, NAU is not a huge school. Your fraternity was not big because the Greek
normal
system,
size. Yeah, it wasn't a big Greek system.
Right. I mean, like how many were in your pledge class? Like
mine was like 6.
Right.
I went in the spring.
To have as many successful people.
Yours was big.
You were my pledge master.
Yeah, probably. I think so. Yeah.
I think we had like maybe 15,
20.
Right.
It wasn't.
But you're right. It wasn't like
right. 100. So to have that many successful people come out from such a small pool
if we
is really
them
impressive.
You could do a series.
I could do my house alone. It was crazy with Parnell. You know, he's president of Lane Terralever. Foley is he's
Foley.
got He's a nurse practitioner, but he's got his own surgical centers. He runs a home health care. Yeah, in Vegas is huge.
Wow.
Brian Stoll lived right above us. He's the
Fox,
old Fox CFO, Fox Restaurant Concept. Then Gosnell, Bo Lump.
Bo's one of the most successful
Berardi,
guys. The guys
Berardi.
that the
Conkey.
The Conkey, Tinker. They own this huge airline corporation. I mean, we got guys that own, half of Old Town Scottsdale, right? Yeah. Ryan Hibbert. Dude, how I remember this kid, Ryan Hibbert, in college, like, who is this guy? Like, quiet, didn't say anything. Now he's running, El Jefes all across the country and Dirks Bentley's.
Yeah,
and
he was the kid that started all that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hefe,
Riot
Handcut.
Yeah.
Riot Hospitality, Riot House.
It's crazy, dude. It's his company's called Riot. Yeah. So
any idea why you think that has been the case? I mean, do you think that?
I mean, I think we all kind of had the work hard, play hard mentality. Maybe.
Yeah. Because I would never have guessed walking into like your house back in 1990, whatever.
Right.
5. No. With what I saw around there.
You're like, these guys might not graduate. Right?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, seriously.
Exactly. And it is really cool.
No, it's fun. And guys have gone on to do all kinds. And again,
I think it comes back to it's who you know.
Right. And we've all stayed in close contact.
And also how your circle, it becomes a little bit of like, okay, I don't want to be a failure within. And everybody kind of had the same ambition of like, oh, we all want to be successful. I'm not going to be the loser that's not successful.
Right.
So everybody, I think towards the end of school, everybody kind of buckled down.
For sure.
And, I barely even lived in Flagstaff my last year. I mean, I was just school is basically all I did. I'd come home on the weekends and come back to Phoenix. It was just like, okay, what can I do to get out of here and graduate and then focus on the next chapter, because I knew that like I had pressure from my parents to get a job and a real career and start life, and that was scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Bob Madrid asking.
But none of us were really like wealthy. None of us were really like spoiled. So we all kind of had like work. It's like we were like cruising through life.
Mark Coletti was spoiled. Remember, he had like a speedboat. I'm just kidding. He wasn't spoiled.
And he lives in Flagstaff.
Yeah.
So, but we all knew that like when it was, I'm not sure our kids know that like when you're done with school, that you're not getting taken care of anymore.
Oh, dude.
I knew it.
My faucet went like this.
Second, I'm out.
Graduated, grabbed that cap. My dad shook my hand at graduation, and as he shook it, I think he went whoop and turned the faucet off. I was like, damn, that happened quick. Like it was over. Now he paid for everything up until that point. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I worked while I was there and doing whatever. Yeah. And you just.
Well, let me ask you a couple more questions before we shut this down. Do you think that AI is affecting your business at all?
No, there's been talk of like the robo advisor for a long, long time, right?
Yeah.
We can hire a robot to basically do the same thing. And I'm not going to say that it couldn't make sense for some people.
Yeah.
But the people we're trying to go after, I think that you need some of that interaction hands-on, right? Because it's not just as simple as how are we investing your money? That is a very small part of what we talk about, believe it or not. It's not, so this is what we're going to buy you. Here's it, here's your cookie cutter, here's your pie, and you're going to have 60% this and that. No, it's not how we do it. A lot of times we work backwards, right? And so we get a client that's, maybe say in their 50s, right? And then we start working backwards. What do you want to live off of in retirement? Well, this is what we we make people sit down and go through hardcore.
There's a human element that you guys,
and then we can show these people with our technology, which is technology and numbers and formulas and whatnot, and then we can show them like, hey, right now you say you want to live off of X amount in retirement. Here's where you stand right now. Here's where if things ended today, when you would run out of money. like age 75. Like, that's not good, right? Or whatever the number is. And then sometimes it's even shockingly on the really good side where, like, you're 61, you could probably retire right now if you wanted to. And people are like, no way, you know. And then, you know, people are like, hey, what if I bought a Corvette? What would that make it look like? And you know, throw $300,000 purchase, whatever they cost. And so that, a robot's not doing that. Mm-hmm. AI's not doing that, right?
There's so much, like, psychological and emotional
you want to
stuff.
talk to somebody.
You want to talk to someone. You want to, and when the, you know what hits the fan, like, I'll never forget, COVID, March of 2020. I mean, I was absolutely bonkers. I mean, it was, the people don't even realize the S&P 500 went down like 36% in 3 weeks. But we were also busy trying to find toilet paper and masks and, figure out what was happening. Like, people kind of missed it. But that was like a 2008 drop in 3 weeks. 2008 took 6 months to drop that much, 3 weeks. And so that was a little nervous time. I'm not going to lie. Like, people were losing a lot of money. But one thing I've learned being in this business is a lot of times when people run from fear, the rich run towards it.
Oh, 100%.
They run towards, and I had people give me more money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you want to give me more money? By the way, where has this money been? By the way, like, I don't know about this. But you want to give me another $500,000? Okay. And then that $500,000 went up, gangbusters by the end of the year, and they made crazy money. So that's one thing I've learned, like the mentality of not just the stock market, pretty much anything. People freak out about, politics. And so I've learned just to not let it affect me a lot. Never get as high as the highs, never get as low as the lows, and just kind of, half our battle is just, cutting out the white noise a little bit. Like, just keep your emotions in check. A robot can't do that.
Right.
And so now, do I think AI in other aspects is going to change the way you and I live? Absolutely. But I think from a financial standpoint,
there's a lot of things that I love it for. So it's all good.
We use it every day.
I don't think it's going to be something that's going to take over our lives. At least
I think it's interesting for, like, kids. I know your kids are in college now, but mine are, younger, and I'm just wondering what that, going to write that essay instead of going to Perkins and staying up all night like we used to, right? 24 hours, like, oh my God, I got a test tomorrow.
True story.
True story. Now you just, I think they have ways to figure that out.
There's a lot of AI software that stops them all from doing that too.
True,
So I don't even,
there's like keywords that like show it off, right?
Yeah. But, so what do you think about, would this career be something you would like your kids to do?
No, it's funny you say that. Yes and no. I think if they showed interest, but I'm not going to like push them towards it. I think it's a great business. I would never, ever want to change the way my life lived out, right? Like, I got to do sports talk radio.
Yeah.
I was a small celebrity in Arizona. I got to hang out with the world's greatest athletes. I got to see events that, I have stories for days and days and days, right? I would never change that. If I got into this business when I got out of college, I don't want to talk about where we'd be right now, right? Like, from a financial standpoint, because I've done pretty good in 13 years. If I was doing this for 30 years, like, holy cow, like this, So
you'd be living in PV.
Big time. No, I'm just saying, like,
not
the younger
PV
you get,
Pleasant Valley.
No, not Pleasant Valley.
Paradise.
It does say PV on my gate. Just saying. So, like, does that make sense? Like, So if my kids showed interest,
do this, by the way,
right?
They're retired,
right? At 55 years old, right, or whatever. And so I think that if my kids showed interest, absolutely, right. Now my oldest is showing interest in what I used to do. Like, he is going to be a sports broadcaster. I guarantee it. I just know it.
Yeah.
He has the same voice as me, the same cadence as me. He's so into sports. He's going to do something, not necessarily broadcasting, but he's going to be working in sports. I just already know it. He's going to work for a team which is fine. The middle one, he's the smartest of the group for sure. He maybe. And then the youngest one, as long as he's not in jail, then we'll be good. So we always joke that my little one, Bo, is going to either be a lawyer or need a lawyer. We're not sure what. Yeah, he has good argument. And
those are the ones that are going to be the most successful.
But it's, on the flip side of that, right? Like we talked about earlier, part of my business and my retirement plan is my business, right? Like, I have a business that's worth a good amount of money right now, and I'm 50, right? So depends on if I do this for another 10 years, who knows what it's worth? And you want to capture that, right? Well, if I give it to my kids, I don't know that I'm capturing that per se. I mean, they would have to buy me out over time and So we'll see. But I think it's a great job. It can be nerve-wracking at times. There's times when because you feel bad. You get tied to these people, right? just like anything. You get, it's not my job's not a transactional thing. Like, I don't, hey, I sold you this. I mean, some things can be. I might sell a life insurance policy to someone because they need one. That's not a client per se. It's just a transaction. But these people that you're growing with and helping plan for retirement, you become like an arm of their family, right? You're part of the circle,
Yeah.
And so I feel bad when they're like, hey, man, what's going on here? And you're like, I know, it sucks. Like, you get attached to certain people. So,
you know what? And I'm sure you're going to agree with this. Like, so a lot of times in this show, we get into like the deep stuff with people and like the emotional sides, the struggles, all this sort of stuff. Because he's had so much experience on the radio, this has been such an easy conversation for me.
Oh yeah.
I think that like you need to come help me sometimes host some shows.
Okay.
Because I think this just flows. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I mean, this has been so easy. It is hard to do by yourself. You know that sometimes I'm like sitting there pulling, trying to figure out. I'm just listening to you because half the times I'm trying to figure out things because people don't know how to answer your questions. So they do it too quickly, or it doesn't like spin in the way that I would assume it should, which it usually should. Right. It doesn't, and then I'm like, okay, so tell me about this.
So back to this.
Yeah,
right? The one-word answers.
It's super.
Right.
Was that cool? What did you think of that? And they're like, yeah, that's great.
That's when I interrupt.
Such a relief.
I'll tell you a funny story. So being a talk radio guy, right? And I also did television back in the day for a couple years at Fox. Fox Sports Arizona. I did the Coyotes and D-backs, and I love TV. Dude, TV was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the makeup part, not that cool, but all the other parts, it was real like, it was live, it was go, and you had to look, at I really enjoyed it. And I just remember, I ended up choosing the radio, and it was the right choice. Believe it or not, more money there and more freedom. And so, but I'll never forget, like, when Gamble would go out of town, right, or, had days off, and I would bring in guest hosts, right? And so I always like bringing in newspaper writers, because they could talk forever. Because all they did was type, right? And they would talk.
Kevin McCabe?
Yeah. Well, no.
Was he a newspaper writer?
No, he was a TV guy.
Okay.
So my story is, and this is not ripping on him. I love the guy to death. But you remember?
Are we talking about Kevin McCabe?
No, we're talking about Bruce Cooper.
Oh,
remember Coop?
Yeah,
Bruce Cooper?
yeah.
And Bruce Cooper, he was, let me ask you a question. Anyway, Bruce Cooper was a TV weekend, sometimes weeknight sports anchor, right? 2 minutes, 3 minutes on the teleprompter, at games, asking questions, right? Whatever. I love Bruce. He's awesome. Comes to do the radio show. We have a 4-hour show. Comes to do the radio show. When I say he blew his load in the first 10 minutes, like, he said everything he was going to say for 4 hours, and he was done. And I was like, Bruce, that was the first segment, dude. We got 15 more of these.
Yeah.
And at the end, he looked at me, and he was like, I don't know how you do this. He goes, I don't know how you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, even guys that are trained professional broadcasters, but when you're on TV and you just got to look in that camera. Now, there's a lot of radio guys that can't look in a camera and look the part, or they have, they're whatever, they look like they should be on radio, which I was, but that's okay. But yeah, it's funny that, some people, you think they're going to be a great interview and they're not. Yeah. And then you've probably been surprised by some as well, right? Where
for sure.
Yeah.
This person's kind of quiet and meek, but then they open up, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I have a couple people that I think they need a redo. For sure, and they know they need a redo.
Yeah, I can think of two.
Yeah, and they've made comments to me about it. They're like, "Oh man, I really screwed that up. Or I should have. I wish I would have known." Because they've watched other ones. They're like, "I didn't know if I really should have said this." And it's good because a lot of people didn't. At the beginning, we've all gotten better as we go along. One last thing. So, talk about your radio show you do now.
Yeah. So it's funny. I got out in 2011. I got fired in July of 2011. I know that because every July 20th, that was the day I got fired at the Swizzle Inn. Right. Oh, by the way, the program director that fired me, I ran into him at the golf tournament this year, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, "Hey, man," and I'm friends with him, right? Yeah. Whatever. And he goes, "Hey, I got to talk to you." I go, "What's up?" And he goes, "I got one regret." I go, "What's that?" He goes, "I regret firing you at the Swizzle Inn." Right? I said, "You don't regret firing me?" He goes, "No." He goes, "But at the Swizzle Inn." I go, "You're a jerk." But it was pretty funny because the story keeps getting told, right? So I tell people every July 20th on Facebook, you've seen it, right?
Yes,
I do a post where I tell people like,
this
hey man, this is the anniversary, right? And so I after about 5 years, I was like, I got to be done with this. And then I had some people, I'm not going to lie, a guy emailed me or Facebook messenger me, and he said, dude, do not stop telling your story. He goes, last year, your story stopped me from killing myself. Dude, when you read that, you're like, wow. Whoa, dude, wait, what? Like,
yeah.
And so, 13 years later, I look at like the opportunity I have to put people in the right spot. And it's just funny that it's been 13 years that I was in radio, like as a sports guy, as a career.
Yeah.
And then 13 years out. That's kind of mind-numbing to me.
Yeah.
But back to your thing. So I thought I was done with radio. Money Radio, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and online. They called me. Dude, it's been like almost, I think like 8-9 years, which is crazy. They called me and said, hey, we want you to host our morning show. It's called Business for Breakfast. I was like, nope, I'm retired. I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do radio anymore. And then my partners at the wealth management firm, they're like, wait a sec, this could be like perfect, right? Like, it's a good opportunity. And I was like, and at the time the show was 6 to 8 a.m., 2 hours. And since then we switched it. It's now just 7 to 8, which is perfect. I just need 1 hour. But it's actually been a really cool thing because I go in, it's not sports, it's a business show. It's not necessarily a show where I'm like, hey, buy annuities, buy stocks, buy bonds. I can't give advice because of my role. So what I did was I created some segments. And on the segment I've had the most success with, I call it the Business Leader Spotlight, right? You've been on it, right? No?
Yes.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Via the
VIP
phone.
thing. Yeah. And so, way back in the day. And so, we probably should do it again for Bison. But and so now when I meet business owners, right, I'm not just a financial advisor. Okay, I mean, everyone's got a financial advisor or knows one, right? But now I'm like, hey, dude, you should come on my show. Yeah. Like, let's talk about your company. Like, really? And then they come in and I'm dressed like this, right? I got my suit on most of the time. And, half the time people are like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh, I own a wealth management firm. That's my real job. This is just for fun, right?
Right.
And I make a little bit of money off of it. And it's not anything, great. But it's a fun 1 hour. It's on the way, right? The radio station's right off the 101 in Raintree. So I come around from my house. I jump in. My show starts at 7:05. I get there at 7:01. I'm ready to rock. It's 4 segments. And I put on these great business leaders. And so it's actually been really cool. I don't really promote it a lot because I'm not trying to tell people like, look at me, I'm doing radio again. Because it's not like that. It's not a career. It's literally like
it's a business development
side fun
deal.
Yeah,
it parallels the show.
What's that?
It parallels this exactly.
Yeah, I just get, and I don't visit as long. Like this is awesome because you got. I mean, I don't know. We've been going for what now? Yeah. Those interviews are about 12 minutes, but they get featured, and then I feature local restaurants as well, and they love it. And so it's just kind of, now you're just this part of this community still. Mm-hmm. So it's been really cool, actually. It's fun.
That's great. I mean, we use this as basically the same tool.
Yeah.
Right, have people on that have, it's not like we think that we're going to get millions of people that are going to send us, and we're going to get millions of dollars from doing this. It's really just an opportunity for us to market the brand, give us something else to do that we enjoy, speak to cool people, learn about cool people, and give them an opportunity to market the assets that we create through doing this,
right?
And post it on their own stuff. I.e. Noah Pasquale, with Epic. It's like a lot of those sort of.
I won't run and do a whole ad campaign.
So I have a question that speaks to that. What's the name of your company, and like where can people find you, or how do they
so the business is called Southwest Wealth Strategies. Okay. Website. Real nice and short, southwestwealthstrategies.com. We are based in Scottsdale. We have offices in San Diego, Las Vegas, and then we opened up an office in one-person shop in Bozeman, Montana. So we've got a nice presence. It's not a huge corporation. We've got, I think there's 15 advisors total. And then, we have some staff here in the Scottsdale home base. And everyone runs their own kind of practice, right? But we all work, like we talked about, interchanged. And it's been really, really...
You're at Scottsdale and Cheney?
We moved to... we're in the Scottsdale...
Quarter?
Not quarter. Right by the Ritz, where they're building it.
Right there.
My office looks Lincoln? At the Ritz. Yeah, right off Lincoln, just north of Lincoln on Scottsdale Road. I just can't... Scottsdale Spectrum.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're right there. And yeah, they building that Ritz-Carlton out my window.
They're never going to build that thing.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. 6 years, I just look out my window. I can still see Camelback Mountain though.
It's never going to.
So yeah, southwestwealthstrategies.com. If people have questions, if you're a business owner and you want to, I always tell people like, hey, when's the last time you did a health check on your 401k? And if they're like, I don't know, or I also say, when's the last time you talked to your 401k advisor? And they're like, I don't even know who it is. I'm like, that's a problem. So that's how I kind of get in. And so, yeah, you just stay out there in the public, try to be like Ryan Madrid and get to know people. And
so since you have a media background, do you do social media at all for business purposes?
No. It's funny you say that. There's a lot of rules and regulations in our industry for not that. You could have a Facebook page, but they're super lame, to be quite honest. Like, they're just lame. I can use LinkedIn. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I don't know. LinkedIn never really meshed with me. I get a lot of questions on LinkedIn asking if I want to join other people, but I don't really see but I think it could be good for some people.
I think so too, but I don't really know any financial advisors or planners or anybody that really has any social media presence that for their business.
Rafal.
But he really doesn't for his business. He just has a podcast.
Yeah, you can do
his
that
Instagram
kind of,
and stuff. They're pretty good compared to most.
The other ones too. Okay, without saying names, you can probably hear the commercials ad nauseum on Sports Talk or any other radio stations that are, talking about these financial advisors, right? And we'll give you 10%, up front and all this stuff. And I know what advertising costs for a year and the amount of commercials that are being done, and there is no way that they're just not hawking commission-based products because you can't pay for it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for me to make an extra $150,000 a year to spend on advertising, do you know how much money that is based off a 1% AUM fee that I got to bring into the big? Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm selling 9% commission products, okay, maybe it's not, right?
It's a different business model.
It's and it works for some, right? And they blow it up and they make a name for themselves. I've just never gone that route. I've tried not to, I didn't call all my athlete friends. I have a couple athletes as clients, and they're not anyone most people would know, right? I didn't call Larry Fitzgerald, hey, Fitz, like, because it's awkward. They know me as this. They don't know me as that. And I
now you could maybe because it's been this far long, but he's probably pretty set though.
I think he's doing all right. And so it's just kind of, I think a lot of them, if they asked me what I was doing, I'd tell them. And if they decided they wanted to call, like, I don't I never hit you up. I don't hit my friends up for business. I feel like let my actions speak, and if people need something, which that usually does occur, like, hey, I got a couple questions, and then maybe something happens. So
that's what you do. Yeah. I think we'll end it with that. Appreciate you coming in, dude.
What was the question you asked me? I don't even remember.
With the media background, do you do social?
Oh, I do social media on my own. I knew there was a question.
Not for
personal,
business.
Yeah.
But not for business. I'll post pictures of my kids or my wife. Or, going to Vegas this weekend. There might be a picture or two up there.
In a plane.
Mark Asher 32 on Instagram or whatever it is.
Well, thanks for coming in, man. I know it's been a little bit.
Yeah, dude. I'm so excited. You finally
we've tried it. You were scheduled about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And we shut it down. And we shut it down.
COVID.
I
know.
New studio. And I was kind of burnt. I needed like a
reset.
Season off. Dude.
I like this setup.
Me too.
It's pretty cool, dude.
And
by the way, I want you to know, like, I would probably do the interview with you anyway because we're boys. But I think your thing is cool. I do. That's why I was kind of like butthurt, and I would tell you I was butthurt that I hadn't been on yet. I'm like, come on, man, my story's all right. Like, I'll make some shit up too if you want. But you do a good job. Like, there's other podcasts out there. Like, they could call me and I'll be like,
I appreciate that.
I'm not doing it. So
I appreciate that.
I'm proud of you,
especially coming from a guy who can do it for real.
Yeah,
and I've gotten better, and then there's some days that I'm just not that good. It's tough, and a lot of it has to do with the guests, to be honest with you, because I'm just not a professional, right? So it's like I try my best, but the people that you can exchange, go back and forth with, it makes it so much better.
Yeah, chemistry.
And I had Stuart and Jeremy on for the first one of the new podcast studio just 2 weeks ago. And the three of us talking made things hell of a lot easier too. Yeah. It's nice having three people in here. And that's something that, who knows, there's going to be times I think where I really do want other people sitting down and having like three people talking, probably not four, even though we have a chair over there, but It does make things easier to kind of gather your thoughts while someone else is speaking.
But that's how they're done now, like these podcasts, right? You got people just chilling, and
I know I
like it.
I stole this from some other people, but it's fine. All right, so yeah, that's it. We're wrapping it up with that. Peace, everybody. That's how we wrap. Thanks, dude.
Thank you, Mark.